Young people are often accused of being only interested in sports or girls or boys or marijuana and so on. But over 800 young people here at Samuell High School have voluntarily come to the auditorium to hear a program by 3 representatives of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. That's almost half of the student body here at Samuel's. And they're asking very intelligent questions, such as this one by Karel Umstead.
When these recommendations are made, are the projects mostly research projects, and then the recommendations made to the various countries to be used upon their discretion, or how is this implemented?
To begin with, NATO, let's not forget, includes only 15 governments, 15 countries. Of course, it covers, let's say, a big share of the industrial world, but this is not a total world to begin with. And besides, NATO is not, as I said, a world government. No decisions as such can be taken by the, let's say, the international staff. As Mr. King-Harman just recalled, we work by consensus, you see, and then it's up to the nation themselves, to the governments, to see to it that the decisions on which some consensus has been worked out are being implemented. They are the ones who can take decisions.
It's interesting to note that environment was one of the prime concerns of the youngsters in the questions that they asked. But there also were other questions relating to the Vietnam War, relating to political relations between countries, and even relating to a revolution in Greece in 1957. Very encouraging demonstration of the relative intelligence of young people today. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move at Samuell High School.
My plans are to continue the community relations projects that have already been started, and we will probably expand, and that your field operations bureau will become more involved in community relations projects. That's not to say they haven't been involved, but I will seek to attain a greater level of involvement. The contractors will take into consideration the stability of the labor market in this area, and it will reflect in their bids when they're bidding the airport project.
How will this affect construction costs to the average homeowner, or will it?
The average homeowner, of course, is the home construction industry is not tied in directly to this commercial industry. However, it always follows along in the footpaths of the pattern we set.
Basically, the charges leveled were misuse of college funds pertaining to a trip that myself and 3 other people went to Austin 2 weeks ago.
How did you use these funds?
Well, we used $59 of the 64, in which was used for gas, oil, food, and miscellaneous expenses down at Austin.
Well, what is the problem here? Is it the $64 or is it something else?
Well, basically, misuse of funds is not a good word, because actually it was procedure that we were supposedly violated. We did not take proper procedure in obtaining these funds.
As I understand it, we will get the verdict tomorrow afternoon about 3 o'clock. Mr. Polk, how do you think this will turn out?
On the basis of the hearing today, the conduct of that hearing, and the evidence presented to the hearing forum, I am very confident that justice will be done.
There are over 1,000 automobiles on this lot. These automobiles are in the Dallas Police Pound off Hawn Freeway, and practically every vehicle in here has some kind of body damage. Well, automobile insurance rates was the subject of a Senate Interim Committee report released today. Dallas Senator Oscar Mauzy, heading up that committee, made a few allegations, including one that part of the insurance rate structure includes the cost of entertainment and lobbying for higher insurance rates. Well, a spokesman for the Insurance Information Institute, Mike Trapphagen, says this charge and others in the report are totally false. I asked Mr. Trapphagen on News 8 at noon that if Senator Mauzy's report is false, and if the insurance companies are not doing their part toward lowering the rates, then what is the answer?
Well, there appears to be a considerable risk to fish and wildlife. DDT has the properties of persistence in the environment. It moves up the food chain and concentrates in species of birds and fish at the end of that food chain. It does represent a threat to certain species of wildlife, such as the brown pelican, the peregrine falcon, the bald eagle. It does concentrate in the tissue of man, but as yet there has been no proof that it does any harm to man other than this concentration. So at this time we can say there's a potential threat to man, and one that we've got to watch very carefully and decide eventually whether that risk outweighs any benefit to the society for its continued use. We have, under our authority in the National Air Pollution Control laws, grant and aid responsibilities to state air pollution agencies. And one of the things that the state agency must show is that they have an adequate enforcement program in order to be eligible for a grant. So that any time a situation like this arises, as has arisen here, we get letters and we get responses from the State Air Pollution Agency, and we look into it. And so in this instance, if complaints are made, and one of the individuals in the audience last night said he was going to make a complaint, we'll look into it as part of our general responsibility to see that an adequate enforcement program exists in every state.
Well, Jerry, after the completion of 1 week, I don't believe I've had a more gratifying or satisfying spring practice. We've had tremendous effort and hustle by all the football players, and I'm just hopeful we can continue throughout the spring, because if we do, we're going to have to be contended with.
How do you feel about Hammond at his new position?
Gary Hammond is such a great athlete that I believe I could play him at tackle and he'd do an adequate job. But at quarterback, he's a natural. He's a very gifted, and his leadership qualities, I just think he's going to be outstanding.
And you have several other changes too, do you not?
Yes, we do. We've made quite a few changes. We moved Dennis Howell from linebacker to offensive fullback, and Dennis is having a good spring. We moved some of our larger people into the backfield, and right now, certainly they're not polished, but they have great dedication and effort, and I think we're going to have a pretty good backfield.
Well, this was put together primarily by Manuel Sanchez, Irv Statman, and Roosevelt Johnson. I was picked as one of the builders to build it, and 3 others, Felipe Ramirez, Ernest Hatcher, and William Butts. We are very proud to be able to be one of the only project in this area, and to our knowledge, the only time in the United States that the blacks and the browns have joined together to build a project.
Let me ask you, Mr. Hatcher, if you think that possibly this is a sign of things to come, with blacks and browns working together to build this type of housing and to work together.
Yes, sir, I do think that the time has come when we will have to work together if we expect to accomplish our goals. I don't think one man out there by himself just can't do it.
The answer is fairly obvious. Since people don't really need license plates before April 1st, why should they be expected to buy them beforehand? The public has kind of a short memory anyway when it comes to personal inconvenience. After all, look at all the folks who swear they'll never be dragged to all the crowded confusion of another county fair. Now, those are the same ones you'll find the very next year getting sick on cotton candy and warm colas. It might be interesting to find out why these people waited until the last day to buy their tags.
Didn't have the money before.
Because I bought the car last night, and it hadn't been tagged for 71.
I've always had a husband to take care of it up until this year.
Just put it off.
Are you ashamed of yourself now?
Yes, after standing in this line I am.
How long have you stood in line?
Oh, about 20, 30 minutes now.
Although the clerks always prepare for the last-minute rush and try to keep the process as speedy as possible, the man standing in line has a different view of what goes on behind the desk. That sometimes leads to various disagreements between the clerks and the customers, but violence is relatively rare and disputes are settled quickly. I guess it's all human nature. If there's not a line of people already formed, somebody's going to get one up. License plate time is a perfect annual opportunity. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.